Thanks to Helix Sleep and GetKikoff for sponsoring today's video. We're gonna do this. We're gonna actually do rotisserie versus offset, and you think I'm gonna be as happy with the rotisserie brisket?
I know so.
I'm putting my money on the rotisserie.
I'm not buying it, but we're gonna find out.
This is the hardest question of all of them. This is the hardest one because we actually had a big fight about that. All right, come on, toughen up. God, Lord.
I'm on a journey to become the best cook I can be. Now, on this journey, I've had the opportunity to learn from everyone from the most iconic pitmasters in the world to backyard barbecue heroes turned barbecue restaurateurs. On this journey, I also met a guy named Mike Miller, who's one of the principals of M&M Barbecue Company, and more importantly, he's quite the rotisserie barbecue enthusiast. But I told him, I'm not a believer, Mike. And he told me that if I didn't like food coming off of rotisseries, it's because whoever cooked it didn't know how to use a rotisserie. So I asked him, are you willing to put your money where your mouth is, Mike? And he said, come down to Tool, Texas. So here I am in their manufacturing facility where they make both offset smokers and rotisserie smokers, where we're gonna do a head-to-head battle and cook briskets on both. They think I'm gonna like the rotisserie better, but I'm not so sure. Now, in researching this episode, I found that I'm not the only one who's not a believer. Not just people that don't believe in rotisseries. Not everybody believed in Mike and his partner Matt's vision of building this manufacturing facility and going into the business of building smokers in the first place. So now I've got to figure out how to tell this story in a way that I can honor the legacy of a man who helped Mike and Matt get everything that they have, but who never believed in how they were building it. I am here with Matt and with Mike, the M&M of M&M, and more importantly, Zane, the resident pitmaster here. And we're gonna do this. Like, we're gonna actually do rotisserie versus offset, and you think you're gonna impress me and
I believe so.
whatever.
I think we can.
I'm excited. Zane is gonna cook briskets on both of these, and we're gonna see what the results are.
Let's get the fire started.
All right, let's do it.
Woo!
How do you honor the man who helped you and Matt build everything you have, but who never agreed with the way you were building it?
Yeah, well, it's a tough question to answer, but the way that I can honor my dad, whether he agreed with us manufacturing or only wanted to keep us doing repair work, is by living through him and using what he taught me. He may not have been the nicest about it sometimes, but the one thing he instilled in me is toughness. He instilled that no matter what, sorry.
It's okay.
I told you I'd
Take
try
a
not
deep
to do
breath.
it. Yeah, yeah, all right. Damn, I was trying not to do this.
It's okay.
Yep, I'm not a crier normally.
One of the main cores behind our business is how do we make something better? So something unique, number one, it has a semi-flat bottom, but a round firebox. And that flat bottom is 2,500 degree castable.
Really?
So this firebox will hold and resonate heat unlike any in the industry. We also created a dual bypass system is what we call, where we actively have split the cooking grates. You'll see your main entry like a traditional offset, except there's two blades in it, disrupting the heat to spread it evenly.
Okay.
If you look up above it, there's another exit.
Wait, there's a hole in the top.
Yep. And over years of development now, we're this close to where it is completely even around the first grate and the second, third, and fourth.
So we get to cook on all 4 grates.
That's the exact goal.
All right. Anything else, or can we get this lit?
Let's light this girl.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, so you're telling me this big steel box is gonna cook as good a brisket as a 1,000-gallon offset?
Well, I'm not saying as good as, I think it's going to be better, and it's not just the steel box.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call your baby ugly.
Well, so there is a lot more than meets the eye, for sure.
All right, light it up, Zane. So I'm gonna challenge you a little bit here. In the offset world, we all know that wood is smoke, smoke is flavor. Insulated fireboxes on offsets typically don't produce as much smoke flavor. Like, are you using less wood?
I would bet it's about half the amount of wood.
Okay. So how do you get smoke flavor?
A rotisserie. The magic of this thing is not just the insulation, is the thermostat and the fire management. Every time this reaches temp, it actively cuts off oxygen and snuffs the fire out.
Okay.
It's literally swimming in a sea of smoke the entire time.
So you're making better use of the smoke that's in there.
100%.
And when you choke it off, it's not dirty smoke, it's not getting bitter?
Not at all. All that is fire management at the end of it. Your coal bed, what type of wood you're using, what type of fire you're building.
But I've tasted food off of a rotisserie and complained that it didn't have enough smoke flavor before I knew that it was on a rotisserie.
I mean, it's very easy in something like this, if you wanted to just run extremely clean and not have barely any smoke on it. I've seen it before.
Right.
It's definitely experience and understanding. It is very different from the offset.
All right, and Zane knows how to do this. So
Oh,
you're
yeah.
sending in your champion and he's gonna make a smoky, barky, beautiful brisket.
I'm putting my money on the rotisserie.
All right,
Let's get this party started.
there you go.
So for this test, we're gonna have two piles over here. One's gonna represent offset, one's gonna represent rotisserie. So every time I add one split to a smoker, I'm gonna add it to its respective pile.
And that represents the 5 splits that you put in the firebox of the offset.
That's right.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna make the second stack for our rotisserie. Now we'll watch these bad boys pile up.
All right, this is gonna be my favorite interview I've ever done
Let's go.
because there's ribeyes. That's pretty cool, right?
And smoke and fire in the air.
Yeah,
Look at the marbling on these too.
these are pretty.
Beautiful. I'm just gonna put these up on this top rack right now.
Okay,
I don't really want any heat on them right now.
right.
Basically what I'm doing is just a rest combined with a cold smoke pretty much. So I always keep some little chunks of bark. We're just gonna let these sit on some fresh coals and this is gonna start smoking everywhere.
All right, you ready to talk some history?
Let's go.
It all started with Mike's dad, but you were friends as kids when it was growing up. What was he like?
Yeah, well, Mike and I met when we were 10.
Yeah.
So my earliest memories of Mike Sr., we spent weekends at his dad's apartment. Him and his dad were drag racers. His dad built an old Jimmy Blazer. And so every weekend was actually out here. His dad always cooked like a just smorgasbord of barbecue and food.
Yeah.
So it was that and drag races, and that was where our like hook and fix for cars and trucks.
So he was a man's man.
Yeah. He's a hard working man, so.
Mike Sr. was we'll call him a character. He started this business and grew it from really nothing. It was just going out doing service calls all by himself, going out of town doing service calls. That's when Michael, came in and started helping him on the out of town calls.
You know, he taught me perseverance. You know, he taught me not to give up. He was not a really emotional guy. I really never, I mean, he never would scream or anything like that. He was more like, you knew not to cross the line and you knew not to do those things. So for me, it taught me to grow up more tough, more reserved. You know, I don't let a lot of people in on my circle, and that's the way my dad was as well. He was very tight for anybody that he got in his circle. You know, he was a very, very demanding man. You know, you could do something that you thought was perfect, and he'd be like, could do that better.
I was actually cooking and cutting at Rudy's Barbecue in Denton.
Really?
Yeah, I cooked there for 4 years.
Am I allowed to admit that I actually like Rudy's fatty brisket?
No.
I'm in Texas. Is that
yeah,
okay?
Yeah. Really depends on who's cooking,
Yeah.
especially in barbecue. It's a labor of love. But his dad would show up to do service calls, and I didn't know anything about the industry then. It was a
Right.
college job for me, but I loved to cook, and it turns out I really enjoyed it. And he was always in there working on the pits and working on the smokers, and so that was like my whole introduction to it. And that was Mike's dad. Obviously, we lived together, so.
Every now and then when I look at Michael, there's facial expressions that remind me of Mike. Yeah. Dad had a very clear, aggravated face. You could tell very quickly. And I do see that in Mike sometimes, but I also see whenever he was super happy, we saw it a lot when he was out on the boat or on the water, sitting on the dock, on a jet ski, and he's just happy, and you can just see the joy in his face. And I can see that the most with Mike.
I was, 8, 9 years old. He was repairing smokers in his driveway We didn't have a garage, he didn't have a garage, and I remember that as a child. So I grew up on it. I got to sit there when it was cold outside. We would sit there with the firebox open and we and him would just chat. As I got older, it was him and I sitting there with the firebox open on a refurb pit, and we're having a beer together as men. And so for me, that I get to carry on to build what he started. Because no matter what, everywhere I go, every restaurant that I service, he has a part of that place. How many people get that opportunity in the world?
So now it's brisket time. Now for you guys' benefit, Zane is gonna be doing all the cooking so that Mike and Matt can't cheat and make the rotisserie one better, because you're gonna do the same thing and cook on both, right?
That's right. Same rub, same temp.
Now Mike says you know what you're doing and how to make a rotisserie brisket great, right?
I like to think so.
And you think I'm gonna be as happy or happier with the rotisserie brisket when we're done as the offset.
I know so.
All right, I'm not buying it, but we're gonna find out.
We will.
So before we cut these open, real quick shout out. We had kind of a brisket emergency and didn't have the product that we needed. And so our friends at Rosewood here in town actually provided 2 amazing briskets. Oy, they're heavy. These are actually Wagyu briskets that they gave us to use for this experiment. And, you ready for this? They're pre-trimmed. So if you're like me and you hate trimming brisket, #winner. So thank you to Rosewood. Not a sponsor, but definitely a new friend of the show. So
Let's do it.
all right, it's all you.
Alrighty. This is gonna be our binder, but don't wanna go too crazy. Something like that. A lot of people forget to get the sides and the front of the lean here, but I like to get it all. Then 16 mesh black pepper.
Okay.
And I like to go pretty heavy with this just for the sake of the bark. So let's be sure to get every side.
So that's just pepper. You didn't put any salt on.
Nope.
Is there salt in here?
So there's salt, pepper, granulated garlic, paprika, a little bit of cumin, and some brown sugar. We'll see if you like it. I think you will.
I mean, as long as we're doing the same seasoning on both briskets, the test will be good.
Of course. So now, flip. That's a big boy. Give it a little bit more mustard on top here, and then back to the pepper.
So is there a reason the pepper goes on first and then the rest of the rub?
Yeah, I like to do that just because I know everybody likes a good bark, and then I like to give it a good dusting with the rub.
Okay.
So we're gonna do the exact same thing with this brisket. Easy, simple process, but it's gonna be delicious. Give it a little pat. And then what I like to do is kind of pick it up, get some of that excess off so there's just one nice, even, thin layer.
All right, so on the smokers?
Onto the smokers. 1 and 1. 1 offset, 1 rotisserie.
Perfect. You all know I don't keep working with brands unless I genuinely like the product, right? So a few months ago when I filmed with Miguel Vidal, I partnered with Helix Sleep after dealing with years of lower back pain and, well, terrible sleep. So now that I've had my Helix mattress for over 6 months, I wanted to give you a real update. I can honestly say winter mornings have never felt this good. So this time of year when it gets cold outside and you're piling on blankets and flannel sheets and stay in bed a little longer, well, the mattress underneath all that stuff really matters, and my Helix still hits exactly the same way it did on day one. I wake up without that old lower backache, which was the entire reason I went searching for a new mattress in the first place. So a big part of why Helix works so well for me was their sleep quiz. You answer questions about your height, your weight, how you sleep, whether you run hot or cold, and it tells you exactly which mattress you should get. Mine matched me with the Helix Plus Luxe, which is designed for, well, bigger bodies, people who need extra support. And man, support is the right word. Every single morning I get up without doing that grandpa grab your lower back shuffle that I know many of you guys do. Helix gives you free shipping, 120-night sleep trial, a lifetime warranty, and they're consistently ranked the best in the industry. But here's the best part. Helix is extending their Cyber Monday offer exclusively for viewers of their partners like Behind the Food. So you can get 27% off site-wide using my link, helixsleep.com/behindthefoodtv, or just scan the QR code on your screen right now. Thanks again to Helix for sponsoring and for giving me the best sleep I've had in years. And thanks in advance to you for using my links like helixsleep.com/behindthefoodtv. It really makes a difference for the channel. All right, let's get back to the show.
So Dad, he had some cardiovascular issues, and what we thought was going to be a very simple surgery turned into a quintuple bypass that he didn't recover well from, and then it was a long stint in the hospital, a nursing home, and then finally onto hospice.
It was a 93% chance recovery. So when he went in, I was like, okay, we're great, everything's fine, I can just worry about the business. In fact, one of his last things was, son, just take care of the business. You don't need to be here, you don't need to be set up here, I'll be fine, and even if something happens to me, there's nothing you can do here. You know, and I will always remember that final thing, because my dad, even when he was suffering, he was still talking about work and repair. He was still talking about those customers.
There were a couple of days where he literally was laying in the bed, and you'd see his arms just kind of moving like this, and he was just staring. And you'd say, Dad, what are you doing? And he'd like look at you with that aggravated face I was talking about. And he was like, I'm trying to finish this pit. And it's like he was imagining in his mind that he was in the shop working on a pit. And it was ingrained in him. He loved it, and he passed that on to Mike. And I think that was another part of why Mike wanted to build it bigger, because they both truly loved it.
I had 9 months to prepare. We thought we were getting him back. He was good, up and down, up and down. And that tore me apart, because you see your hero doing well and then not doing well. And then we had to make the decision to amputate his leg. And my dad's one of the most proud men I've ever met. And I knew that he would not want that. But I had to try to keep him here. And that's what the doctors told me that would give him the best chance. And I just fought as hard as I could for him.
But he went into hospice, and we worked every day to be there. And the one day that nobody was there was the day he went. And I think that's how he wanted it to be. He didn't want any of us there. But it was also Dad to do it on his own terms, because we were trying to avoid that. Like, there was a reason that we were all there, as much as we were. I think that just ties back to that stubbornness that he had in wanting to do things on his terms. Because I don't, it just seemed like he was holding on and holding on and holding on, and then, he went. So.
On his terms.
Yep, on his terms.
How did Mike take it when he finally went?
Yeah, he handled it as well as anyone could. Mike's a pretty tight-knit person. He doesn't really wear his emotions on his sleeve too much, so he took it well as you could. It's heavy. This is Dad. My way of doing it, and I think Mike's as well, is get back to work, get buried in something you want to do, and life moves on. You're not disrespecting them any. You just got a business to run, a family to feed.
The team took the loss really well. They gave me a card, and as guys, we don't show our emotion very often, so it's very difficult for guys, and for the most part, we don't know how to say, I'm sorry for what happened. So they come up to you, give you a hug, and they did, and I'm sorry for your loss, and and we'll do this together.
Most of our crew has been with us at least a year, up to 3.5 years. So yeah, everybody knows everybody, and then when Mike's dad passed, the whole shop put together a whole giant card, and everybody signed it and sent their love and said they were praying for him and looking out for him. So
every son wants to do their dad well. They want their dad to be proud of them, and even at 40, I still want to make him proud.
Yeah. You think when he died, he was proud of you?
All right, come on, toughen up. God, Lord. All right, here we go. Okay. This is the hardest question of all of them. This is the hardest one, because we actually had a big fight about that.
What was the fight about?
I didn't think he was proud of me. He always fought with me on it.
So why didn't you think he was proud of you?
He had a very set way of doing things, and that's the way he wanted them. He wanted them this way, and if you deviated from that, you were wrong, you know. And for me, you know, every person has to learn. You know, you can tell somebody not to touch that stove, but you have to touch it, because if not, it's part of growth, and you have to pave your own way. And so, do I think at the end, was he proud? I do. I think he was proud. Do I make him proud? I got a lot more to do, a lot more, in my heart, I do.
All right, so first check on the offset. We're at the 5-hour mark in the cook. We're getting some really good bark here, as you can see, some good color.
Beautiful.
Starting to pull up a little, but we'll tip in probably an hour.
All right, so we'll be back and check on this in like an hour.
Yep.
Come on in.
All right.
So as you can see, the rotisserie brisket's considerably further along. It's starting to pull up. It's getting that good bark that's starting to get set.
I think I can say at this point, the whole you can't get a bark on a rotisserie thing is blown.
Yes.
And this is 5 hours.
We're not even ready to wrap yet, and that's our bark.
All right, so what do we do to this now?
So now we've got a really good bark everywhere, except for right here, it's starting to pull up on the lean. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is tip that.
And we're just dumping that right into the smoker.
Yep.
It'll just cook off.
It's gonna dry out and it's gonna bark up. And in about an hour and a half, we'll have a good bark here. I really don't think I could take my hand off of here, but let's see what happens.
So now I'm just gonna go down to my cooking level, now that we've got some flavor on it. Once this guy kicks up, we're gonna jump straight into the heat, which I'll shuffle these because this one's gonna cook significantly quicker than this guy, so.
Matt was a very nice kid. I mean, me and him at the beginning didn't hit it off at the very, very, very beginning. And then in fact, we weren't friends at all like the first 6 months, because I moved in from another school, and then he was kind of the cool kid in that school and I was a cool kid in the other school.
As you can't see now, I'm a slick, clean, bald head. I used to have long, platinum blonde surfer hair, the old split cut.
Really?
Long one. I guess you could say I was kind of the cool, popular kid.
Okay.
And Mike was kind of the wild child when he came in from another school. Mike grew up a rough and tumble life, fighting and problems, and if you punched me in the face, you'd have thought I was gonna die. So I was terrified of conflict and anything on that. So we both rode bikes though, and somehow we connected on that. And as soon as, you know, in our generation, we got home, we had our bikes, we were gone till the sun went down.
I always say this, and it sounds super cliche, he's the yin to my yang. You know, our minds are a lot alike, but we're very different at the same time. I'm more the aggressive, go get him, you punch me, I'm gonna punch you back guy. And Matt is more the laid back, hey Mike, chill. You know what, it's gonna be okay. I'm all gas, and he's the brakes to my gas.
Then we went to middle school together, we went to high school together, we went to college together. We went to college and shouldn't have gone to college. We had no idea what we wanted to do. Me, him, and his wife, Bettina, because he met his wife in accounting class with us.
And we all met in the absolute worst class. It was Accounting 101. And our groups ended up merging, and that's kind of like when we all started talking a little bit more and got to know each other, and then, you know, started spending more time together. And Mike and I obviously started dating, and here we are, like 20 years later.
So love at first sight?
I don't know about love at first sight, but it was definitely like, oh, that guy's pretty cute.
Okay, so he was cute.
He was cute.
Honestly, it was kind of in college, he kind of settled down. He didn't really want to go out and party a whole lot. It was him and Bettina, and he wanted to stay. And I was like, my mindset was, oh, I'm in college, I only get to do this once. I'm gonna take advantage of this.
Yeah.
All right, the bark's getting some really good color. As you can see, we're ready to tip, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. So we're at the 6-hour mark, and this is when I like to rotate so that I can be really sure that that barks up on the flat. We just want to get this lean caught up with this point.
All right, so we put the flat towards the fire now, but we're not wrapping. It's gonna take the full brunt of the fire.
So we're gonna let that bark up, get a little bit more tender, and then we'll wrap.
All right, and we're still running at 225 here.
After I rotate it, I go up to 250.
Great, let's go see what's going on in the rotisserie.
Let's do it. Here she is.
It's amazing to me that it's looking better and more barky than an offset brisket.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think it's possible, but it definitely is, at least on an M&M rotisserie. We're pretty close to wrapping that. We're gonna give it a little bit longer, but let's check for tenderness and bark. See, we have this second pull going, so we're gonna go ahead and tip that. And we're not gonna rotate this one like we did the offset until after we wrap.
But the direction actually does matter in a rotisserie.
Yes, it does. So the hot spot's right here in the middle.
Okay.
And I just want to be sure I get a really good bark back here. I like how this is going. So I think if we just let it ride like this, once we wrap, then we'll rotate to get that lean caught up.
Okay, so how long you figure we got?
We'll wrap in about 45 minutes.
All right.
This could very well be Jenga, folks.
I've always wanted to build. So even when I was repairing, I would look at things and go, man, we can do this better. Man, that needs to be fixed. And like, I see these problems that are recurring and the current manufacturer didn't want to change any. I have these customers that we got really, really tight with. They're like, Mike, why don't you start building? Once you start building, I'm like, well, it's a scary process jumping from repairing all the way to full fabrication building, I was always out of town, always gone, You start getting, I have a 9-year-old, so at some point it's like we have to get a little more stable where I can start building a legacy for my kids.
I only done basic welding in high school, really, but I wanted to really get in the custom car world, so I went for collision and refinishing, so metal repair, paint, custom paint. Yeah. I did trim and upholstery, which is sewing and interiors, and then the big one was motorsports chassis fabrication. So
is that as manly as it sounds like?
It is absolutely. Building full custom chassis, building cars from scratch, 100%.
What's the one you were most proud of?
My last build. So my very last build in the industry is a 69 bump side Ford. So it's a F100 pickup truck.
Okay.
It's the first project really in my career of doing it that I had pretty much complete control on. So there's over 7,000 hours of hand fabrication in it.
Wow.
It's a $750,000 truck. And
wow.
It just won Good Guys Truck of the Year. So it's
really
the most prestigious award you can get in building in the custom car world.
Talk to me about that thought process that led up to you picking up the phone and calling him.
I knew he was doing sexy stuff out there. He's building $500,000 cars. Barbecue still wasn't 100% sexy yet, not the way it is today. Now it's glamour and all these things, but back then we were still grunts, and nobody really cared about any of this stuff. But, Matt and I have always been so close and we've always been open and be able to have a dialogue, and I finally was like, you know what? I'm out here breaking my back, might as well start, building and seeing what we can do here. And I finally called Matt up one day and was like, hey man, I want to start building. You want to come back to Texas and build with me? He said, yep, and dropped everything he was doing to make $15 an hour to come work.
And I didn't even hesitate. Let's go.
And so you go from Ventura, California to Toole, Texas.
Yep. So the first shop was a little shop on the side of his dad's house. So it was like a 40-foot by 50-foot shop, and we crammed the first three rotisseries that we sold, we built in there. Started working on it with his dad, and Mike was running service calls still. Yeah, that was the first roll on that.
Alrighty. There she is. So we're at the 7-hour mark, and this bark's looking really good. It's staying in place. It's got that good texture to it. I think we're about ready to wrap.
That's pretty.
Now we're gonna spritz the paper just to make it a little bit more malleable, a little bit easier on us, and then we'll wrap.
Is there any trick to your wrap, or is this a pretty standard wrap?
Pretty standard. Main thing for me is just be sure to get it as tight as I can, which is why I do like to spritz it. Just gives me a little bit more control over it.
Okay.
Once I've got this all tucked in under there, then this excess paper, I'll just fold it. So we're gonna get this lean side towards the hotter spot of the pit and wait for it to get to about 195 internal. Now that we've got a good bark, we're just looking for that tenderness.
And how long is this gonna roll?
I'm gonna guess about 2 hours.
All right.
But I like to check it every hour just to be sure that I don't forget about it or lose it. I just like to babysit my briskets.
All right, well then we'll see it in an hour.
Alrighty. So let's see where we're at the 7-hour mark here. We've got a good bark going here, but it's not quite ready. Still getting a little bit of seasoning to the touch.
It's not nearly as dark as that rotisserie one.
It will be. It's just gonna be a little behind the rotisserie.
All right, so we're not wrapping this now.
We're not wrapping yet. I think we're about an hour out. We'll do one last tip. So we're gonna come back to this in about an hour, and it should be about time to wrap.
All right.
Nobody breathe towards it.
Mike did not love the idea of building smokers. He was fine doing the service. He was fine doing the repair. It provided a good life. It provided a good balance, per se, right? Like, you can kind of choose your hours. You can choose your jobs. You can say no to this. You can say yes to this. But when you start building smokers, you don't necessarily always have that, right? Because pits have to be built. Timelines have to be completed.
Manufacturing and building that, I don't think he understood how much was going to go into it.
Yeah.
Mike and I wanted to do so many things, and we're going to expand and build this and grow, and I think it was just too much for him, and that was kind of the little bit of the sparks flying of him wanting to, maybe I don't want to do this, I don't want to be a part of this. It was kind of the process. We started butting heads a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a hard, dirty job. His dad liked fixing things and going out to a site and meeting a customer that had a problem, solving a problem, happy customer, get a check and go home. And I think that's all he wanted to do. Where the young guys had a whole different plan, that they could add that skill set and then this fabrication. They had ideas, they want to build stuff, and they actually produce a good product, good product.
There are more than one instance where Mike and Michael had hard conversations, we'll call it. Sitting around the table outside, we'd all be together on the weekend, cooking out. I mean, honestly, I'd heard, well, that's just a fucking stupid idea. Like, there would be words back and forth, and one would get up and walk away, and the other would get up and walk the other way, and then we'd move on.
My father was very vocal about his displeasure with what we were doing. The thing about Matt is he is one of the best men I've ever met in my life. Maybe the best man I've ever met in my life. He was always very delicate with it. He never, ever stepped out of line, any of that stuff. He was because he feels for me. He cares about my feelings. And so he never wanted to do or say anything that would hurt me. That's him in a nutshell. So any of those things that would pop up, he would just say, hey, we'll get through it, man. We'll get through it, Mike. We'll keep pushing.
One day, I want to say there was a TV interview. Dad watched the news religiously. He was one of those guys, like, he would sit and he'd watch the evening news, and he saw this story about Goldie's, and it had our rotisserie in there, and I think something clicked.
While he was watching TV, I come up on the TV. I'm on the TV, and I didn't even know I was even on a segment. I didn't even know I was on it.
He realized, like, wow, like, the guys have done it. Like, they're on the news.
And he's never seen that before because, again, this was just a little old shop and nobody's gonna know who we are and any of those things. And I think the day that he saw me on TV, he goes, oh, shit.
We had the smoker we built for the Rangers that got featured on the news, and the grills that we did for the Rangers and then the Braves and now the Padres. Being able to see that all out there, it finally clicked for him that it was the right move for Michael and for the company and to move it forward.
And he called me and I went over to his house and we had a really good talk, and I think he really started believing.
They had the conversation. He was like, I saw you guys on the news, that's amazing. I'm really proud of you guys. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit because I don't know exactly what it was. But basically, he realized there was a future in this and that it wasn't all for naught, and all this time and work that we'd put in wasn't for nothing, and that it was growing and that we were gaining that momentum.
Do you think Michael knew how proud Mike was of him?
I think he has an inkling. I think that if that conversation had never happened, I don't know if he would. I think that gave him some of that faith back that, Dad gets it now.
On these I Got Schooled videos, we're always talking about chasing big dreams. Opening a barbecue joint, buying a food truck, starting to build smokers, finally betting on yourself. But a lot of people feel stuck because of one thing, their credit. Now, if that's you, check out our sponsor, GetKikoff. GetKikoff is a credit building tool that helps you build credit in a safe, simple way with no credit check to start, no interest, and no hidden fees. And it's actually the #1 credit building app on the App Store. You can sign up in minutes and monthly plans start at $5. Now, they're built to support the parts of your credit that really matter, like building a record of on-time payments and helping keep things in a healthier place just by keeping your account open and paying on time. GetKikoff reports those payments to all 3 major credit bureaus, so your good habits don't go unnoticed. Users with credit under 600 who made on-time payments saw an average 25-point improvement in their first month and up to 84 points after their first year. So if credit is what's standing between you and your next chapter, GetKikoff is one of the safest, easiest ways to start building it. And get this, my audience gets 80% off the first month. That's as low as $1 to get started with the discount. Just go to the link getkikoff.com/behindthefood right now or scan the QR code on your screen. You can literally get started for $1. So if your credit could use some improvement, go to getkikoff.com/behindthefood. You could help your credit and help support the channel at the same time.
So our brisket's been wrapped for about an hour. So we've got some good saturation here. Typically when the brisket's done, this whole top side will be saturated, but let's give it a probe, see if it's done. I think it might need a little more time, but let's see. Oh, 195 on the money. Looks like this is ready to go, and we're gonna rest it until it's 165 internal. It'll probably be 2-hour rest, so let's get this off. But we pulled the last brisket at 195, so let's see just how far behind this one is. 160.
Is it at least time to wrap yet, or does it need to ride longer?
I would let this ride just a little bit long.
Okay.
Somebody get a picture quick.
All right, let's eat.
These look and smell amazing. And I'm gonna compliment you on not having forks. And we can eat these like men. So let's see how you did.
I'll split it one way.
That's gonna blossom really nicely. Wow. All right, this is a piece of perfection. Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Good. Enjoy it?
That's really nice. So, you guys are building this manufacturing business. Things are going great. And then it starts to get too much. Talk to me about that.
There's a difference in being busy and I think taking on a little too much, but you know, we're trying to build something real, but there are definitely times when you realize you need to delegate, you know, and Mike and I can't do everything. That's probably the hardest lesson I think we've learned in building this now, 8 years in. I'm a very detail-oriented craftsman, and one of the hardest things for me, and Mike's been preaching it to me for a long time, is, you know, learning how to take your hands off of things and having to let other people do things, which is, you know, the only way to grow is to be able to do that.
This is the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. You know, and one of the things is people don't tell you, you know, what you have to go through to scale. And him and I have had to learn that step by step. We are family owned. We have no backers at all. We have been asked to be bought out and said no to all that. I believe in what we do. He believes in what we do. And no matter how hard it gets, we're not going anywhere else. We know no matter what, we have each other. And if we have to be up here 20 hours a day, we'll be up here 20 hours a day to get it done.
Mike and I are natural problem solvers. So it was figuring out, how do I build something that I can teach and train other people to build? I have a very complex fabrication background, so things that seem very simple to me are not simple to a lot of people. And it took me a long time to learn that. You know, I typically pick things up the first time I do it, and I've learned that's not normal. So trying to teach people, that was a new pill to learn for sure, and growth.
Any mistakes big enough to cost you people or cost you customers?
I mean, I'll start with employees. There's for sure we've lost people over the years just because of leadership, you know, being a little bit of chaotic, because I'm gonna run 120 miles an hour no matter what. It's my natural pace, and not all people are meant for that or want that.
When Matt and I do things, we want to be the best. There is no second place for us. We want to work as hard as possible to be the best. We're demanding when it comes to that. And we had to really hone back and go, okay, well, we're not the same as most people, and then multiple personalities is something that we had to struggle with. Now, we got it. We got an awesome team, awesome staff, And now we hire very diligently now.
We had a couple guys that I thought were going to be lifers that were with us for 3 or 4 years, and in the midst of things getting a little overwhelming, decided to pack up and leave. It really caught us off guard. The biggest was our CNC operator, and he's extremely sharp and intelligent. He was just doing grunt work, just cutting holes out of propane tanks with a torch, and turns out he was extremely computer savvy. And as we started hiring and growing, I couldn't do what I needed to do as he was developing our CNC division and all that side. I think a lack of communication and frustration from him, not getting communication for what he wanted to do, pushed him out to go try something different, and he ended up leaving. We didn't see it coming at all.
Me personally, one of my biggest mistakes, the shiny things. I look at something and I go, we can do that and we can make it badass. We have the industrial side of it, so we can make something that we know will be badass but function really well. So I started chasing all the shiny things. Let me do this, let me do that, let me do that. And then now I would shake myself from even 5 years ago. Don't do that, don't do that.
Growing pains are definitely a thing, especially when you start small. So Mike asked me to help with things here and there, like, hey, can you help me get this invoice, or can you help me get this order, can you ship this out, or there's all these little things here and there. And over the years, I saw it growing and I saw him struggling, and it was like, maybe I should leave my job and come help you, since I'm already helping you anyways. I've threatened to have them teach me to weld, but nobody's taken me up on that yet. So, but I do know how to use most of the tools in the shop.
There you go.
So we're at the 9-hour mark. We're gonna check this bad boy out. Oh yeah, it's got great bark. It's pretty tender. I think that's ready to wrap.
So 9 hours to get to this point, and we were 7 hours to
Yeah.
wrap on the other one, and
8 hours to
8
done.
hours done.
Yep, yeah, that just shows the efficiency of the rotisserie.
So I'm gonna make a prediction here. I know you're not gonna agree with me,
All right.
but this guy got a lot more smoke. This is gonna be a smokier brisket.
It might be, but I think that the smoke will be just the same.
I guess we'll see when we finally get to taste it, right?
All right.
All right, so time to wrap,
Time to wrap. And we'll spritz the paper.
just like last time.
Yep. Just to make my life a little easier.
No, is this
is
just
all.
ACV?
This is just ACV. I didn't dilute it. I didn't add anything. And we wrap. Now we're gonna get this nice and tight here. We're gonna fold this excess paper and we're gonna pull it as tight as we can. And it should look something like that.
Okay,
Back on the smoker, lean to the fire.
so we'll be back in an hour for that.
Okay. All right. I don't think she's gonna be done just yet, but
The rotisserie was done after an hour.
it was. See, okay, so we're through the stall. That's good news. We're almost 180, and we should be about an hour out from being done.
So slower, but we're not gonna be here all night.
Exactly. All right, so we're 12 hours into our 10-hour cook, but
We gotta be done now.
yeah, my fingers are crossed that this has to be done, right?
All right, let's see.
Let's get a probe in there. Show me the money. Okay, 194. And in the flat, also 194. So we got a really even cook. Let's get a feel on it. Oh, that feels perfect.
All right, so we're done.
Yep, same exact thing. We're just gonna let it get to 165 internal, get in the warmer, and we're done.
All right, well, let's go rest it.
All right, cool. 62, 34. Both briskets are done. Our rotisserie brisket is 165, 2-hour rest. It's ready to go inside.
All right, let's get in the warmer.
Let's do it.
What do you hope people feel when they see an M&M pit?
Badass. Badass. I mean, I've said it forever. Offsets are hot rods, basically. That's what draws a lot of people to them. It's just a mean, gnarly-looking smoker, hand-built and grinding. And our style brings more of the resto mod supercar side into it, but function is absolutely first at M&M. We just want to look good doing it, so.
When they talk about M&M Barbecue Company, I want them to say, man, those are some badass guys, man. Those dudes are fucking sorry.
No, you can say it,
okay.
absolutely.
Those dudes are fucking salt of the earth guys, man. Those guys, when they say something, they mean it. And when I need them, they're there for me. Those guys work their fucking asses off, and we do this together, that I'm not just a number. Some companies are like, okay, sold it to them, gone, next one. No, they're not just a number. Every single customer that we have right now has my cell phone.
What do you want employees to say when they talk about their employer?
I love where I work. I love what I do every day. I want them to understand that we're helping them build real life skill sets. Something I've said forever since I became a fabricator is it legit turns you into a problem solver. I've got a couple guys that work for me now that had no fabrication experience, and now he's like, I'm at home and my dad's trying to do something, we can't do it. And he's like, well, hold on, we'll just blow this apart and glue it apart. It's like, it's changed your whole line of thinking, didn't it? Like, you start reverse engineering things, and I really think being a craftsman and a fabricator and work with your hands translate to everything in life.
The future that I see for M&M is not 100% only smokers. I see full culinary. We call ourselves a one-stop shop, but I care about the culinary industry. One of the things that I've seen is a lot of competitors. They don't even service their own equipment anymore. It's a very unintimate, let's just get it, ship it, and go. And I want to bring that back to you, that feeling of, hey, we're going to not only sell you a product, but we're also going to take care of you. That's why we service 3 of our top competitors. So my goal is to be a world brand in culinary equipment. So it's not only just going to be smokers, it's going to be grills, Santa Marias, and other more on the live fire side, and we're going to continue to grow.
Our offset brisket is at the 2-hour mark on the rest, so I'm going to take it inside and get it in the warmer.
Are there parts of Mike Sr. that you see in Mike Jr.?
Yeah, he's fiery, that's for sure. Very stubborn, kind of a lone wolf. Mike, as us growing up, used to be that way, but it's probably one of the most beautiful things about us building this is, I think building a business is the most competitive game on the planet. I think it builds more character than at least for me, it's built more character than anything I've ever done. And I've always had pretty thick skin, but I've got rhino skin, bud, and I've learned you need to be even keeled. And I've watched Mike grow leaps and bounds over the 8 years on this, just dealing with sales end and customer relations inside. That's a whole nother animal on the back end. That combined with having 2 boys and a wife, he's got a lot going on. So it takes a lot. It really turns you into a man, or it breaks you.
So what do you have to do to get to the point where you feel like you've made him proud?
I don't know if I'll ever achieve enough to where I feel like I've made him proud, to be quite honest. Like, we're getting to do a pit for the team that he cheered for his entire life, that we're kind of keeping on wraps. I think that would have made him pretty proud. I think he would have really been happy about that, seeing something he's watched 65 years and then we're actually doing a pit for them. That's one of the proudest moments I'll have in my life.
I think the easiest way to honor Dad is to continue doing what we're doing and do it to the best that we can. That was always the thing with him, was you do something the best that you can. He would teach you how to do something. He didn't want to have to teach you more than one time, so you better take notes. But he was coming around. Whether he was ever gonna actually tell us, that's another thing. That was another dad thing, was he would keep it close to the vest, but he'd give you hints. He'd say something slightly different, or he wouldn't fight with you on something. And that's how you knew that, like, he had accepted something, or that he was accepting of something. So I think that the best thing that we can do is pour our heart and soul to it, because that's what he did. And so that's what we do. Every day, wake up and pour our heart and soul into everything we do.
So the last question is the same as the first question. Now that we spent all this time talking about him and you and the business, what are you gonna do to honor the legacy of the man who helped you become who you are and achieve everything you have, even when he didn't believe in the way you were doing it?
So for me to honor him, I'm going to take the great things that he instilled in me, the passion, the grit, the fortitude, all that. I'm going to take those beautiful, wonderful things that he taught me, and I'm going to grow from that to try to be a better man. I want to not only do well in business, I also want to be the best father that I can be, that I'm there for my kids every day, and that I am both equally important in each one, that I am truthful and righteous in everything I do, that I'm not selfish and only doing things for myself, that I'm doing it for him and my kids.
Do you think he was proud of his son?
Absolutely. I don't know why he wouldn't be. Because he's got a stellar human being he's raised. And that's a fact.
All right, gentlemen, it's the moment of truth.
Yes, it is.
Now, you get through this whole cook. Are you still confident?
I'm still very confident, especially after that long rest. I think they'll be awesome.
All right, so here's the deal. I can't cheat.
Okay. Tie you up.
Will you help me here?
This is as official as it gets right here, boys.
All right.
So we've got brisket A
Brisket A.
On the block.
on the block.
That smells amazing.
We need smell-o-vision here big time.
I know, right?
Man.
Here you go. This is a flat from brisket, letter A.
All right, here we go.
Well,
Cheers.
cheers, I went too early.
Okay, that's good.
Bark's nice.
Bark is nice, tasty.
Nice
It's
little.
got good smoke on it. I'm not gonna guess which one's which till I taste, but I think I know what this one is.
Confident.
Moving on to the point.
Point coming? All right.
Look at that dripping. Oh my gosh.
The moist looks really nice.
I can't wait to watch this video so I can see what that brisket looks like.
It looks awesome.
I love brisket slicing footage. Oh, ooh, that.
He's like, I can
Hopefully they're getting
feel the
enough.
difference immediately.
Go.
Oh yeah.
All right, does everybody have them?
Yep. Oh,
All right, cheers.
That tips.
All right.
Cheers.
Oh man, that's good.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Man, that thing.
This has a really well-defined bark.
It's got a little crunch on it too. Like,
It does.
Everybody likes it?
Yep, not mad at it.
I ain't mad at it.
I'm not sending that back.
Good.
All right.
Ready for brisket B?
I've been waiting my whole
See?
life for brisket beef.
C for brisket B.
And just so you guys don't try anything, I can smell the different meats, and if you try to like sneak some pulled pork in, I'm gonna know.
That thing is juicy.
Yes, it is.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Here you go, good sir.
This is
All right, we're back to.
this is B.
All right, that pulls really nicely.
Cheers, cheers.
We're ready.
I took a bite.
All right, here we go.
I keep prematurely eating.
That's not
Man.
bad.
That's really good.
The juices flowing from that guy was, look at that.
Okay, it tastes different, but I don't know that I could peg which one's which. The bark is crunchy, and this has got more smoke flavor than the first one, I think.
All right, I'll start going on the point.
We got a killer pile of brisket
Yeah,
going on
to
over
show
there.
that.
It looks like beef ribs.
Good Lord.
Man, beautiful.
That is gorgeous.
All right, boys. It's time.
It's time. Thank you, sir. Just like, look at that.
I can't.
Oh, yeah.
I can't. I literally can't.
God.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh man.
Fuck.
Not bad.
Oh, my. Look at.
All right. I haven't looked at them yet. This one's better. It's got a better bark and it's got more smoke on it. And I'm not sending the other one back. So if I just pick the offset, I'm not gonna say the rotisserie was bad. If I pick rotisserie, I'm gonna be really surprised. But texture's identical.
Man.
All right, I think I wanna look at them before declaring for sure, but right now I think B is the offset.
Up all right?
Yep.
Man.
Man.
Not bad.
Whoa.
All right.
Rosewood don't play, boy.
Man, Rosewood ain't playing.
All right. So looking at them, I'm gonna guess A and B. That was the first one?
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Are you locking that in?
I'm logging that in. I think that was the first one we tasted, and this is the second one.
Well, you'd be wrong, sir.
Really?
Really, I wouldn't lie to you. The first one you tasted was offset, the second was rotisserie.
Really?
Are you mind blown?
That's the
Yeah.
rotisserie?
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't even know that.
The second was the
This is the
That's right, I
rotisserie
didn't
and that's the offset?
Yep.
Sheesh.
That's right.
The moist is what
The
blew me
moist.
away on
That
that.
was
That bite
fucking
was
crazy.
All right, let me see
Way
half.
before
I don't
the-
care which half. I just want to look at.
The texture of the bark is great. Like it's not crispy.
It's
but
a better bark. This is rotisserie.
It is. I promise. I promise. That's why I'm sitting here begging him to believe me.
I don't believe you.
Believe me.
You can look at this and see that the bark is better. Both beautiful, but this is a more well-developed bark, and it's actually got a deeper smoke ring. You were wrong,
Yeah.
but in the right direction.
Yeah.
You thought the offset was gonna have a better smoke ring?
Right,
Yeah.
and he thought they were going to be the same, but it turns out that the rotisserie does. So I guess, all right, I stand corrected.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh man.
We did it.
I mean, there was a noticeable flavor punch in
It really
the rotisserie
was.
one. Like
it had
really
more
was a
flavor,
noticeable
it
punch.
had more texture, and it looks better. I mean, on every count. You sure you're not? You didn't-
I'm sure. Hey, Scout's honor. I would
And
not lie.
about half the amount of wood.
what do we use?
We used 62 splits for the offset, and I think it was 34 for the rotisserie.
So not only labor savings, half the amount of wood, and it had a better bark and flavor.
All right, so honest question now. Why be in the offset business if your rotisserie's this much more efficient and the product, it turns out, is this much better?
Well, I mean, there's a place for offsets. I mean, they're still awesome, and like you said, they still taste really, really well.
Yeah.
They do function really well. I say a perfect pit room has one of each. You know.
Yeah.
The offsets are also, I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna get killed for it on this, but they're cool, man. They're just really cool to look at. you
They're
know.
hot rods, man.
They're hot rods. You know, I have a saying, you know, that offsets are for show, rotisseries are for dough. They make you your money.
I mean, let me tell you, like, we all know Nick Damp, right? And
Yeah.
when I was in there with Nick, like, he was cooking on the Centex because he could create the bark with that Centex airflow, and he wouldn't even consider putting a brisket on anything else.
Yeah.
And you don't need that directional airflow to get the fat cap crispy.
Super common misconception, you know. Aaron Franklin was like, you know, rotisseries are for ribs and all that, and then briskets are for offsets. And I've been doing this for about 20 years. I'm like, no, I've cooked a ton of briskets, and the misconception of, oh no, they don't bark up or anything like that. It's completely just that. I mean, we've just proved it right here.
So some of the folks that watch the show are pitmasters. A lot of people that watch the show are backyard warriors. You got the Texas Smoke King offset for the backyard. So do I need an M&M 2000 in my backyard to be able to do this? Or, so how do I do this at home?
Well, I'm gonna real answer, yeah, you do. Everyone needs that.
Well, we are coming up with a backyard rotisserie. It's been about 5 years.
We know. We got a lot going on.
Yeah, but we're about 5 years in the making on it, and we've made it. It's finished, and it puts out a product just like this.
Now, is this like a product announcement? We're shipping it, or are you just telling me
Nope.
been 5 years and you're gonna go another 5 years and make me wait?
It's going to be hopefully in production at some point in the next year or less.
Okay.
That's the goal.
All right, I will plan to bring the Jeep down and get one into the bed of the truck.
Right on.
Hey, thank you guys for doing this. Thank you for putting in all the time to do this.
Yeah,
And,
no problem.
It's not easy to impress me, man.
Well, I'm glad I was able to, and
Nailed
it was
it.
a good time.
Thank you for coming down.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Yeah.
all of it, man. Really
Thanks,
do.
guys.
We appreciate
It was
anyone
awesome,
that comes
man.
down and spends time with us.